Okay, so for quite some time, I've been working on getting myself moved to Linux, basically the last 6 months. And at first, that was just reinstalling my operating system, setting up my laptop, the Linux laptop, and getting all of my projects up and running on the laptop, on the Linux operating system. And then I just spent a while working on my RPG simulator from there, testing that out as a daily driver. And at this point, I don't feel any reason why I couldn't make that environment work long term for myself as a development environment. But I haven't transitioned my main computer here to Linux yet because I want to think through how I will get my software working on Windows because I still want to ship for it since it's probably, you know, just ridiculous to try to make anything that you want people to actually be able to get to and not put it on Windows because so many people are still going to be there for a while. So for now, I haven't quite figured out what I'm going to do to keep Windows around as a target. I'm thinking about trying out emulating, but there are some limitations to what I can do with that in terms of graphical stuff. And in the meantime, I have a bunch of progress on this project that I've made over on Linux that I haven't even ported back to Windows. So before I find out where Windows will live, if it's gonna be on a side laptop that I keep a version of Windows up for testing graphical programs and stuff that are supposed to run there, or if it's that I find a emulation setup that's good enough for the kinds of stuff I'm doing. I'm not sure what that'll be yet, but in the meantime, I have this machine set up, and I'd like to try to get everything about my RPG simulator and my C scripting work that the RPG simulator is driving, uh, working as well as it can on Windows while I have this machine set up because I'm about to uninstall it and start experimenting. And so it'll be my last chance to do this until after I've fully finished figuring out the new way to target Windows. And I'd like to get C scripting out before then, or at least share a lot more of it. I'm not quite sure, but I think it's really good at this point. C scripting is pretty much uh, doing what I had hoped it would do for me in the RPG simulator over on Linux. And there is a one rough corner. So the way it ended up working out on Linux is largely better than what was possible on Windows. I didn't need any metaprogramming. I didn't need even any object file processing except to read some stuff out of object files because the final maneuver to make it work was to use a linker script, a generated linker script. And that generated linker script is not a meta program. It doesn't have to be built. Instead, it just scans your object files and imposes a slight plan of its own on how that's going to get arranged and encodes that into a linker script. Right? It's just arranging the data properly through the tool chain, essentially. And the question is, can anything like that be done on Windows, or does it have to keep doing this sort of self-reflexive parse? Right, the way this has worked on Windows is that it reads its own executable file format at runtime in order to locate the symbols, whereas the Linux one is actually just linking it down to a statically correct linkage. There's still other weird stuff like ID calculations that are not static because that would have to be a deeper change to what this feature set of a linker includes. But it's a lot better than what we have on Windows, where we have to keep some extra data fat around and some extra init time roughed around to set up C scripting. And I also haven't shown any of the current iteration of the RPG simulator. I'm not quite sure how far back it goes the last time I was showing the RPG simulator code. And that's because I'm kind of on an iteration where I'm starting to think of it as containing real content for a game, and a game, unlike most software, is something I don't feel like benefits from being developed entirely in the open. So with a lot of my research stuff, I like to just be very open about what I'm doing. But if I'm also going to use a real game to motivate and drive some of the experiments, I feel that it does help to have some of the uh, motivation structure of being able to surprise people later with all the ideas that came together in the game, right? It kind of is deflating to the idea that I can bundle this all up and show in one big splash all the cool ways it can work, um, if I'm trickling it out the whole time, right? So that's why I've been careful not to show anything about what I'm doing in the RPG simulator for quite a while. But today I'm just really feeling like giving it a shot anyway, because it's such a rich playground for C scripting now. There's so many examples of patterns that are useful and important to have supported, and how I supported them in the RPG simulator. And I'd like to get them all working on Windows and see if I can't remove that extra layer of cruft somehow. Maybe, well, I have some ideas how that might happen. But this is also just a critical part of the research process that I want to have open, uh, for people to see what I'm doing. So that's why I'm pushing myself in this direction to share this part where I work on the C scripting underneath all the RPG simulator stuff. But at the same time, I'm also thinking about that, wanting to be careful about how much I share. That's why I'm recording ahead of time, and I might block out parts of the video that I decide are too spoilery for the work I'm putting into making a game. But besides that, I just wanted to be able to share as much of this as possible. So it is not scripted. Today I'm posting on the Unscripted channel because it is not scripted, but it's also not a live stream because I'm going to edit out a little bit here and there, possibly, depending on how I feel about it afterwards. I might decide that it's just not worth the work of editing to protect that surprise. So in that case, it's just like spoiler warnings. You might get spoiled for the game by checking this out today. Then again, I'm not trying to make it like a game where spoilers would be the worst thing ever. It's not like a puzzle game or an adventure game or anything like that. But take a look if you're uh, not worried about that kind of seeing the way the sausage gets made and how that might affect your experience of the game. If that's something you prefer to keep, whatever. I'll move on. I think I've made the point clear. So, what I want to do is, I've just pulled all the code for the RPG simulator, and the current iteration, well, I have no idea how far away it's going to be from working. But can I build? Okay, right. Welcome back to Windows. First, you have to set up Visual Studio. So some stuff is just like compiler differences of opinion that we're going to have to work through. So let's do that. So just so that what I'm doing is not super opaque, I have on my project hotkeys build board test and build command. If I show you the list of all of the things I can build, I've got a main program, main new program, command, sim, Sci meta, we'll talk about that today, and so that'll be clear. OBJ from raw, board test, and then build all. I could just say my goal here today is really to get build all working, except I know that sim and probably mains are no longer building because I've done a lot of iteration on the core rule set and only kept command up to date. So really, it's board test and command are the two I'm targeting first. That said, a part of the reason to get things working on Windows again is to take one last look at the graphic system and make sure that I didn't have any lingering discrepancies between how things were working on Windows and Linux. And so I'm not sure if I'll stop with just those two, but those are those starting points, right? Command and board test first. If those get done, and I want to keep doing this kind of thing, then maybe we'll be looking at the graphical stuff. And the sim one is also just underdeveloped. It was meant to be a replacement for command and didn't fully take hold before I decided it was not helping yet. But it might still help. So I don't know. So with that, I think I'll say my main goal here is to get board test working, which is very narrow, and then command, which is a wider build target. And so the first one I'm hitting here, F1, is board test, and line 340. What are you talking about, actually? Is deck data void pointer? Is that the point? Yeah. Okay. So you're telling me you give me a warning that the size of void is 0? It's not a warning, that's just like a note about language work. Take a look. So zero. I guess I go to like the compiler flags and disable a new warning. CL dash B4034. So what this board test thing basically does is give me an instance of every one of my C scripts, and so what I'm thinking is if I get this working, this actually tests the C scripting. I might not even, I'm not sure. I might not even need to be able to go on to the command one. And it does split the spoilers up more, but I don't know. We'll see. For now, we're not really my point is for now, we're not really at risk of spoilers because this is all just like test information. All you're seeing is what the sort of the guts of the architecture look like a little bit. Oh, yeah, line 30. Def typed. So are you unhappy about counter raw, perhaps? Constant. Bet you're unhappy about this one then. Right? Is that it? Which the raw is built specifically to be a constant. This is raw. One per tag counter raw. It looks to me like it's RPG counter raw. That one has it. Adds to stat. That one has it. That one has it. And all the ones that have it are hook def, although these are three different variants of hook def. It's all just being used by hook def. Counter add to stat has two variants. Counter add tag. So yeah, that's all. It gets used 6 times to define these 3 things, and they're the 3 that aren't working. So that's probably a culprit. RPG counter raw. How are you not a you don't want to see. Is it that you don't want to see this? Wow. So you would prefer I not type my struct literals so that you can compile. Okay. So that's compiling. Hey, command is compiling too. That's super interesting. If that's all still working at this point, that's really cool. I thought C scripting might be more broken after the amount of time it's been, but that kind of looks like it's working. I don't know though. It might look like it's working and then do nothing. Let's play the game real quick. Yeah. That's just totally working. Okay, so I might have expected this to be harder than it's going to be. Okay, I mean, if that much of it is working, I think the next step is to make sure. I just need to isolate the C scripting stuff and then It's pretty much ready to go. What's the build process like for C scripts? It's the thing, right? Self-image symbols. Right ends. Why would this want to be a separate thing? I feel like it just doesn't want to be a separate thing. I feel like I should use this into the symbol set type of header. Well, there's another question though, which is can I get linker scripts to work on Windows if I'm not using the CL compiler? That's something else I want to investigate. Isolate the Windows build Windows plus CL build instructions. Isolate for Linux plus build instructions. Something like that. So for now, I go over to my local vars and say let's build on Clang. Everything just works. So you can build on Clang like you do on Windows, roughly speaking. Could I get it to build like it's building on Linux? So that's a little more work. We got to go here and see sign meta. When does that happen? In order to figure out if this is going to work, what I really need to do is look at linker script research that I did. Let me see here. So of it. I mean, it's all here in the Linux code. I just don't have the like easy test demo stuff. Okay. Okay. What's in Scratch? Okay. We're gonna just take over that folder. I don't know. Figure out how to make this thing work. Okay. Okay. Good. So, question is, how do you make a little test that you actually can, of whether or not you can run linker scripts? How do you keep it simple? We will figure it out. Okay. Okay. Now, if I can pass this thing a linker script, I need an example of what a linker script. Find one of those. Gotta be. This one. Not build source. Get it from looking at meta program that generates. I said it's not a meta program earlier. It really depends on your definition. It's it doesn't have to include your source or inspect your source. But it does generate a linker script, so in that way it's meta. And that's why I called it meta. So if I'm making an example here of where is it? Side projects. File name. We'll just call this main.ld. So ld is the file extension for the linker script. Then let's see, what does this do? Read the data, sections, and then, okay, here's how we write it. Sections, insert after dot data. So this is the part that makes this particular linker script modify the default rather than replace the default, essentially. Because now it's still going to run everything else normally, and then it's going to say, oh, take these sections or insert them after the default data section. And then I can make up a section, call this main, and we'll say inside that section, going to be a symbol defined called main begin. It's going to say at the beginning of the section, and main opal, main first, main opl, because that's how I name everything. And then don't have I think I do not have the ability to get to except by going over to Discord. One of these threads I wrote oh, maybe it's over here. Yes, here we go. Okay. Here we go. You can include explicit bytes. This is what I was looking for. You can include explicit bytes of data in an output section using byte, short, long, odd, or squad output section or output section command. Keyword is find the value to store. working, I should be able to do something like this. Right. And then over here, what you would do is you would have like main first, main opal. And so these are external symbols that are not defined here, but if the linker script works, it'll provide some data and point those to the beginning and end of the string. And so then, if I were to go and %s the address of main first, right? Because this is not a pointer, this is a variable. It's a variable whose static address should be sitting in the spot right where the linker script fills that stuff in, if any of this works, right? So there we go, unresolved external symbols. But what if I were to pass you the linker script? Now I have to go back to the build scripts from RPG Sim to be sure I know how to do this. Where did flags get passed? There. So you're saying that if this works, I should be able to do this, main.ld. Now I have to go back to the Scratch folder I was working in. Yeah, so this just doesn't support that. But let me do a little more digging. Playing on Windows linker script. Well, yes, for one thing. Sure, I also. Okay, this is a single line, yeah, so if it. I don't know about any of this. Oh, linker. Sure, so it looks like this does work on Linux where you can just say if your linker so what if I want to Okay, so let's try this one. It did change the linker, you can tell. Right, that is a Windows linker error message. That is LD. What? That doesn't make it do this. So what if I split this intentionally? Because this is how I do everything else at this point. Is I cannot try it this way. So main O. Did that do anything for you? Main.o is the object file that pops out. But that doesn't change how it treats the flag at all. wish they would just put a freaking example of what it looks like when you use it. Like this. Okay. None of that has got us any closer. I'm confused why I didn't have to do like a WL thing myself. That's a little weird. It looks like I always have to make it just work by saying G. And of course, I have it set up to say you can only use the linker script if you're on Linux, but that's not really the full scope story. The question is it supported? And I know it's supported when I'm on Linux. But I mean, this basically boils down to that I'm doing like this, right? This is what my scripts do. This is final in files. This is going to be object files. It's going to run that separate. That's what I do on when it works. Unused during compilation. Can you use linker scripts on Windows? Come on. This is all unrelated. Okay. Um. Let's try this. That right. Exclamation point. Okay. And be able to do something like clang-d main.c clang-o main dash t main ld main.o echo build complete dot program colon. There, it doesn't work. Slash build sh. Okay, how do you like that? close dot slash there will be necessary. Okay, so what I just did there was build the thing successfully on in Clang, but using the Ubuntu for Windows thing. Right. So here, if I invoke Clang like this, it works. And on Windows, it doesn't. I think I'm going to accept that that's the state of things. If there's any way at all that you could make it work, I don't know how to even get a handle on that. Like, it's it seems like it just doesn't do it. Okay. I think I'm gonna just take this as a no. There is no linker script, even with Clang on Windows, as far as I can figure out. Okay. In order to do some of this next stuff, it'll be to switch back to the RPG simulator. Go to boardtest.c and I take out the dummy rules. Then I have it set up with all of the C scripts are there, but there's no so now that's failing to compile, but only because the test actually reference to relying on the build. So if I just take out everything. There you go. So it does build. That's different. That doesn't work. Over here on Linux, if I were to do RPG sim, you're supposed to run these. You're supposed to run these from this. I'm not sure why this doesn't work. Like failing because of the line endings being right or something crazy. Because it works fine over my Linux laptop. But I guess Ubuntu for Windows respects the tradition of rejecting carriage return more than Windows. Right, so we actually need to build SciMeta first. So whoa. First you hit this, which set you. Then you did the thing. Created everything. Okay. So the question, so this is what goes wrong. First of all, let me explain. What happens with the Linux version of C scripting is when the symbol set is empty, it means we've defined some macros that could have helped us to generate global variables into a particular special section. And then we didn't use those macros. We didn't have any instances of it, which means that there's nothing actually in the section. And so when the file or when the object files get scanned, they don't have the data sections to tell the scanner, hey, here's one of the things you need to generate. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense, right? Like the scanner is looking through the object files you're going to link, and it's using that to figure out where all the special sections are, and generates a linker script that sort of links it up properly. But the linker script doesn't get any symbol names for sections that don't exist. And so if it's empty, it doesn't exist. And yet the symbol gets referenced in code that thinks of the set as existing even when it's empty. And so we run into this problem where the heuristic of look at the data sections isn't enough unless I have a way to generate an empty data section on purpose. So that's one possibility, generate an empty data section on purpose into the object file from the compiler so that the script, so that the linker script that gets generated is always correct. And if that's not possible, then another possibility might be look through the symbols, look through the unresolved symbols instead of the sections. Right, look through the unresolved symbols and use those to figure out what the set of symbols are that you need to define. And then link those to their sections if they exist, but if they don't exist, we just zero them out. So, two possibilities. Okay, I know that B is possible. I'm just less excited about it because I think it will make things a little more difficult. So I want to explore A first because it might be like a quick fix kind of thing. Maybe even the simpler fix if it's reliable. But certainly a hell of a lot simpler if it's possible. Done with it. Useless. Uh, okay. I don't know. I'm feeling pretty pessimistic about the ability to do this. It's feeling like well, one thing I could track down is how do I do This feels pretty unlikely. Feels like wishful thinking. So let's approach it the other way. The way this is working is it reads in the object files and scans the section. What we get out is a list of everything we learned about in terms of sections that need to be included from the data section. And those all went into this thing called buckets. Right? And also symbol set names the list. So, what do I get from an elf parse? Do I have the ability to read symbols? Yes, I do. That's really wonderful. Process sections. Here we're going to process symbols. And the way that's going to work is going to be a little bit different. Because here, when we see a section, we know immediately yes, I'm gonna do it the easy way that we'll actually get the right. So let's do symbol count equals elf parse symbol count parse. Symbol count I plus equals 1. Symbol name equals LP symbol name parse. Now I have to do which table. I don't know for sure. I'm gonna try this one though. Right, like this. Then if we look at this, we can see what these names are like. It's psi OPL underscore underscore and psi first underscore underscore that I am looking for. So check if the name has this or this as a match. I don't want to collapse those code paths though. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this would be symbol set. Name equals empty. Okay, so we read the name from the symbol. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to calculate the symbol set name. This is a chop of 9 from the name. And then we'll try again once with RPL. That's 2 characters shorter, so that would chop like this. If the symbol set name then isn't empty, so that's the signing. Not chop, skip. That's right, skip. Then read this. Find a match. If you don't find a match, I mean. Then insert. Okay. So that builds. That looks like it worked. That looks like it worked. Okay, and just to be sure, board test. These are all empty right now. So if I hide that and then I do rules and then I do RPG rules print, pass the rules in. Okay, cool. So the rules is basically a data structure that build it, and then if I run the board test, this state, it looks empty. If I stick this back and I build the board test again and run it again. Now some rules show up. A bunch of rules are actually missing. A lot more that I haven't added to the print path yet. Yeah. It's not bad. Not a bad overall start, although the print has bugs. But yeah, okay. So that looks like it fixed that. So I think we just call that a win. We'll commit this for now. That should do it for now. I still have these tasks to do. So I think I'll be back again to wrap this up in another segment, maybe in 2 segments, since there are 2 tasks here. I'm not sure how big these will be. But I'd like to try these out. Okay. So what's going on next is we've got well, this should be a little bit easy. Simplify a little. RPG Sim source. So the Mr. Fourth code base folder inside of RPG Sim is set up in such a way that I should be able to just copy the whole thing back to Mr. Fourth source, but I should first make sure that I have the most recent, and then I go here and I paste all of that over all of that. Git diff. What do we got here? Implemented a thing called memory swaps last time. I sketched out an end curses wrapping layer. Something called fancy racked, not the whole layer, just the fancy racked. Okay. I updated the symbol set metascript thing, the linker script generator. Okay. And a little bit of OpenGL Wayland stuff. OSW layer. Okay. So we have before I just want to make sure I've got the tag names right. Git log and curses. Symbol set. Okay. So base new function memory swap. Symbol set improvements to what's the name of that? Simple LD meta. To avoid errors on empty symbol sets. Okay, so there's the second to do. Now I close my forecoder instance. But the third to do is the big one. I need to go into side projects, C scripting, get this standalone example fully upgraded to the new way of doing everything. In that one, side projects, C scripting. All of that is still stuff to do in the future. On Linux, I've tested extensively this way. I haven't bothered testing GCC. This seems to be working fine. Maybe I haven't embedded that. Maybe it's not. I mean, I have a lot of symbol set. C uses it. Wait a minute. this looks pretty standalone. Why did I think that the RPG simulator needed the self-image there? I want to go... I don't know. Do I want to change gears? Keep going through this to-do list. I'm gonna change gears in a bit. No, these we canceled, but we're not worried about it. We're not doing that. Set up count and base point. No, we're not going to do object file editing to try to solve these problems. We're going to accept the system about where it's at and then build a sort of bakeway path so that if you can't or don't want to ship with the cruft of data sections, that there's a way to actually rewire things so that all the same data is available, but that it gets sort of baked out ahead of time. Right? That's going to be a fairly easy thing to set up as a transition path or a sort of build baking kind of thing. And I think that the object file stuff was going to get a lot more unreliable for a long time until it got to the point. If it ever got stable, it was not going to get there. I'm pretty happy with the syntax of symbol sets at this point. I don't think I would want to change it based on the bunch of experiments I've done and stuff. Okay. All of this is improvements that can be done separately by development of examples or by development of support tools. Except for this stuff in the middle. I could go back and check all of this. I don't know if I'm going to bother testing on Mac before I'm ready to ship. This is up and running. Okay. That's worth going back and doing. And now I'm gonna, okay. So that was the whole list. So what I wanted to do was come back to this. All right. I knew there was another thing to come back to. This was it. Let's go do that. So let's go back to RPG Sim and load that again. And now I'm trying to probe. Why does this work so well? I need to build OBJ from raw for Windows. Then I should be able to. just do it this way. Okay. OBJ from raw. Okay, so you probably need me to go like delete build / OBJ from raw. In order to work. Okay, so you guys build. If I go to command.c and I say drop self image F2, it does break. Because self-image.c is still there. Okay, so there are two files working together. And there we go. And does it work? You know, it's like there's not some kind of a dynamic link between these. Let's see. Is there any other let's just do this. Go back to the RPG Simulator folder and go to the build folder and do a full wipe. This thing is getting out of hand. Build OBJ from raw. Why does board test do that? Why not just? It's just okay. So OBJ from raw is irrelevant. I'm just. It's about baking my shaders into the graphics version. So I broke it somehow. Local vars cl link. So it breaks if I switch to claim for the linker. That's kind of interesting, right? This is working fine. So what would do that? Playing link. Here. And it doesn't have anything to do with self-image, right? That's the other thing we can rule out. It's not actually about this was an irrelevant, totally eliminatable piece of code separately. Yeah, so this is good. And then you do this, build, but they go. Presumably the rules appear empty here. So let me think how I could probe this. Really the interesting stuff here happens here in size section. It's possible that this is not going to work on the Clang linker image-based thing. That could be the difference, right? So I'm going to pop open the debugger, delete, see whatever it was I was pretty organized to work on because it's just old. I have a file. Clean slate. What file is set.c? Maybe I should go for it like this, right? Oops. Okay. Okay. Where? So step in that. Here it's actually already too late. What I need is to go to that source file. I was trying to do it the other way. User fourth symbol set. And we want a breakpoint in here. What's happening is we haven't gotten to main yet. But when we set up the symbol set, it registered a before main initialization. Which called size section init. That name. Base looks good. Plus magic looks good. Signature. Off. Section count looks good. Not the image base, that's the little by little you look through each. Show me the section name as we go. Breakpoint here and a breakpoint here. Data. Data. Here we go. Okay. So that looks like everything you need should have been provided. This is like psi first init, right? Psi opal init. That looks fine to me. And that's normal. Let's look at this a different way. Maybe I need to see more than I thought. Maybe command's not. This part. Okay, what happens here? This doesn't terminate? This happens. Will you finish? But what, you never make it here? It looks like it's doing something bad by the end. Like it's going around and maybe one of these and it ends up looking like it's got a null function or something. There. Okay. Psi init OPL. Psi OPL init. first init. My init is definitely inside the legal range here. Keep investigating. Site first init. So it says it has 40. The size of one of these There it is. Okay. So many of them are null. No. All null a minute ago. Oh, that's OPL though. Let's look at first. There's a bunch of them are action null. The problem with the count again. Now I've had these problems a lot with the Windows version and I've fixed them. But maybe I never fixed them for the Clang driven linking. So the issue is the correct size. The correct size for this section should be 304 bytes. But it came out as 640 bytes, so there's a bunch of null past the and that's a problem. We can't have that. We have to get the correct count for C scripting to make sense. I'm thinking we need to look into link with Clang. I got any linker flags set up about this Windows. I think turning off incremental linking was a part of it. I had this over here in this file called do as well. Right, I had need maybe I need to disable Clang's link on Clang. With operating system Windows. Playing disable incremental linking. Playing linker verbose. How do I get like details about what my linker is right? I need to come at this a different way. Let's say, go back to that scratch folder. And forget about this. 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 Okay. No, we don't need these. Hello world. Thing A B attribute. Let's see here, Mr. Section rewrite. Please. Okay, attribute section dot test data. We only have 8 characters on Windows, so we don't go past that. Test data. Boom, boom, boom. And then we make it a my thing. A pointer to X and a pointer to Y. Type def that. Okay, so it builds. And then I want to basically take this code stick it here up above that code. Here's my mini self-image, right? And then I should be able to use this function to get test dat So we're trying to read out first an opal pointers from this section test dat. Oh, great, right. Okay. Okay, so that's giving me 1. And I'm building out with Clang. 19 of them that set off the other issue, right? Right. Might have been 0 index, so let's try 20 of them. This. Okay, so now you're just working. As expected. Let me just double check. We came in here. Told me 40. And so I guess one thing that I want to talk about is I go over to the RPG simulator. Look at the file where all of these things are being defined. How many times do I actually set up one of these? Okay, here's the doesn't count. This is graphics. We're defining it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, that's the real list. That's the real list of them right there. And so no one else is like injecting something. No one's doubling up on cyanide, right? Okay. So, what is it? Well, another way I can investigate this is yeah, if I go into RPG Sim, I'm changing gears now because trying to recreate it didn't work yet, so I have to figure out what's different, right? And so RPG, I want to look at the build folder. Can I elf dump here? No, do I have like called helpers in binary path for this? Maybe they're in bin temp. Yeah, they're just the PE helpers, so I don't have elf helpers. Okay, I don't need elf help. Temp. Well, maybe that'll work. Maybe that'll work. So, take a look at that table. I'm going to turn off line wrapping, go down to one panel. Here. So where is .sci.init? That's in here somewhere, right? That's in the... It says 320 bytes in the object. Now, if I'm not mistaken, that's the correct amount. How many bytes it should. So what changed here? Oh, you don't have the... table for the command.exe. That seems weird. Maybe that doesn't work anymore, but definitely used to. Go figure this one out. I don't know if I don't know. Okay, we're gonna do it this. Here it says yes, you have. There we can see right there, it's increased the size of it a bit. Now, if I this. I still don't have an answer for why it is that it's different here than in the test case. That I set up over here. Right? This test case attribute section. The way it gets built is you build the object file, then link with Clang. For here, this gets built with the compiler. It's linked. Maybe it's that, but I kind of doubt it. Maybe it's something to do with the compiler flags. But that doesn't make sense because the object file coming is actually the way I want it. And it doesn't do anything even slightly like this with the link. Linker scripts make it very precise. Fortunately, here we just have Clang doing whatever it does. Okay. Here's a thought. We could at least go back to the scratch and run this in verbose mode. Here's that's working fine. It keeps getting the right counts. Don't know why. Let's look at the verbose Clang linker option. Try this. You're just running the Windows one. Are you telling me that what this comes down to is you need something like... Oh, did I already know this? Did I screw this up? This is the thing I already knew, isn't it? Well, this is the one that's working, though. So, this isn't screwed up. That's confusing. The side projects, C scripting. So in the C scripting project, this to do here says on Clang, incremental node is showing up. Okay, good. Well, we weren't having any problems with the incremental link to begin with, right? Here. So what I want to see is, can I go back to this RPG simulator again? Let's go into the build core. And let's say when we well, we can just stick this in the compiler flags temporarily. Clang. Compile with Clang, give me verbose. That's not what I want. There we go. There, where did that come from? M incremental linker compatible. Kind of feels like I did OS. Feels like if I did this. So I still built with Clang just now, right? Local bars, I'm still linking with Clang. Does this look any different? Well, yes, the difference is now 20 instead of 40. Okay. Right, so this was just, I had not implemented the specific knowledge about how to make the Clang linking work into my build system yet, wasn't it? Cool. That's good. We're done with you. Back to normal mode here on this machine. Okay. So this is good to go. This is good to go. Okay. Okay. So, double check. Right. So I made the change that fixes this. Or okay. Let's clear out forcoder. Pull it up, and again, let's fix up our RPG simulator first. Self image.h is out. self-image.c is out. Okay. In the Mr. Fourth layer, even these can be out. They're just done. So self-image gone, and that builds, that builds. Okay. Now let's add down, do the copy over again. Here. Now we're going to try to get build all targets to go real quick. The main code base. Okay, everything still builds. So before I do that though, that didn't fix the linker flags. These linker flags need the same upgrade that these ones did. Okay. And now finally, I do it again, the next step of the process here. Pull up C scripting. Let's shut down you and go to side project C scripting. Now load this project. So here what I want to do is to look at symbol set and define and compare them to the ones in my code base. Yes, this doesn't have an operating system switch yet. Let's try and see how. I think it's just going to be easiest to grab symbol set H. And then let's see H. This one comes with Mr. Fourth symbol set dot C. Need that. Symbol set dot C. A. And then Mr. Fourth symbol set LD meta. We also need that. Symbol set LD meta dot C. Okay. So Mr. Fourth symbol set. 4 different files. Over here, symbol set 4 different. Good. That shouldn't build any. Got well organized here. So base.h. I'm gonna start. Yeah. Query symbol set base h, and we will just go through and carefully put psi in front of everything we define that we still want to use, but I don't care about. Don't care about this. Don't care. Probably care about that. Maybe I don't care about it. Kind of looks like maybe I don't. So we need to fix this part. We know that doesn't quite abstract. main this. There, right there, length CXX. Do not eliminate. Probably pretty similar to what I already had. I don't remember changing this at any point. We don't really need this. We use this in self-image type of work, but we do it without this. Yeah, we don't need this either. About this either. Okay. Okay, where was I? The new symbol set system set up. And usage examples. That's fine. I want to align as lit needs to get moved to base. Line up POW 2. Okay, we need that. I like that name better. I don't know why I started calling it Align Up. But I'm gonna call it Round Up going forward. See how that feels. Gotta change it. Change things up once in a while. Improve the linguistics. Actually, why do we have string 8 stuff? It's not just for the. If it is, then that's gonna go. The base should just be stuff that's no use there, symbol set define. No use there, symbol set C. String 8, no. Every single one of these is gonna need a those though. It seems like these don't serve a lot of purpose in the main. I think drop this. Right, this for setting up the example from the first iteration of all this. We're going to serious temp. And this is actually going to be better. So no base.c anymore. We're going to recreate those. So example 1, example, okay. For now, base layer. And then we're going to go into symbol set.h and copy the most recent variant ZZZ B. Man. The type is going to be x1 command. Command is going to be the section name. Give it a name. These want a hook, right? We're going to do this one. this is like x1 and paste with n. Find this. Take this here. This is going to go at the end. Then let's see, in addition to description, okay, so name is description is hook is okay, I don't like that. Symbol static. Let's be static functions. This part. We also need finding glue here. Here it is. So I need to look at this command signature here and do it properly. There we go. Then these become, so we gotta pick up the parentheses. Command ID parenthesis becomes sci ID example 1. Command, I think. this becomes 4 psi each x1 command and this line. Psi address from ID x1 command ID. Each of these encodes ID in 32 bits for one of the commands. This maps that to an address. I'm just going to include this in symbol set.h. This. Okay. So there's example 1 working again. Let's do another quick pass over all these. What's in this area here? Base H. This one does not run on this operating system. I could test this with Ubuntu runner thing, but signs from my original code base have been swept in and integrated. Now this one hasn't been pushed yet. That one's going to be bigger. But this one. Okay. Let's look at go away, right? Doing nothing. C script. Whoa. One of those occasions where old version of Voyager file pilot starts even weird if I delete something. Here. So that doesn't break anything. And we can do this. Something like that. I don't think that's what we want. That's the Windows way to. Obviously, it's not this. It's one of these, though. quite remember. First one. Okay. Okay, so we have undefined references to these symbols, which is good because that tells me that now we can go and look at build ldmeta.sh. Okay. So how hard is it going to be to replace this out of base layer? Like it's going to be kind of an right. I mean, it's one thing to get rid of base layer entanglements for the other stuff, but this is hitting a lot. I do not necessarily want to shrink this down. So instead, what I'm going to say is trying to reconfigure our expectation, how this shifts a little bit around this. So there's those things. This sets up the example of how to use it. So I should really start thinking about what don't we do, like have new folder examples. Actually gonna live in there. And then this defines interface for programming, basically the includable part. And here, we're gonna go and grab everything we need from Mr. Forth, the code base. Let's building. Examples, example 1. Also need to have -I code / source. Go. -I code source code examples should build here if I everything but the LD meta works. Do this one, that just works, right? So then so this is in LD meta.c. And use folder here, called Mr. Fourth. Add those aspects of this code base that are needed. Both of these. Part of dump. We do need. Are we just on it? Why can't I copy paste? This is weird, right? There we go. So there we go. Standard IO is cat. How does that look? Right, so we still need to add okay, progress. We got here. So we do want some options here. Options W node switch. Why does it print all of that? That doesn't seem... So when does it print like that? All clang. Something else is up, right? here, then you print an extra line. That's more like it. Okay. So then, to really build on Linux, what you do is you build C file, you run probably I'm not sure. This is the naming scheme I've been using at LD. But anyway, you run the symbol set meta program on well, the paths are for sure. Dash build, cd build. So then here, sci.ld leave. It sort of seems like it worked. I had a little typo in the script left over to make it anticlimactic. Yeah, there's a script in there. Looks like it has arranged the command section properly. So yeah, that looks correct. I think that's about it. I think this is the status quo for C scripting, Windows and Linux, up and running. Yeah, I suppose I'm gonna publish this as it is along with this video. And then the next big thing I'm gonna do is spend some time practicing starting a new project with this system and seeing how easily they set up from the templates that I've got, right? Because I've been developing one big system on this for a while, and I've liked how that has gone. Long term is good, but I might be able to refine the on ramp by running over it a couple more times myself. And so I might focus on that for and do similar videos to this process. And then I also want to make some videos exploring use cases for symbol sets, like I had here. I want to refine the examples I have, but also then build up real use case work here and there where I can. This is all much more involved. Oh, I'm just taking a minute to think of what some other real use or use patterns I might want to write down, but I'm not thinking of any off the top of my head that I remember wanting to explore. So I'm gonna wrap it up here for today. This has turned out nicely, and I think that it's about time to get the basics of symbol sets, C scripting out to everybody. I guess before I sign off, let me think one last time about the name of the repository as I intend to share it. So C scripting is the name of the technique. I also am missing basic usage guidelines here. What does it say in the README? I'm just rereading what I wrote. This is a good explanation of the main idea, I think. Immediate mode binds the action to the information, but it doesn't give you the ability to use this data in a comprehension kind of way very easily, at least not without complicating and adding a lot of other stuff here. If you do everything table driven, like you define it all as very a data structure, then you can easily reuse it in all sorts of ways for things like building a help menu and other kinds of, spell checking, helping on the options or whatever. But now you have unlocalized the code that responds to the options from the syntax of the options themselves, which is a little bit of a maintenance burden sometimes. Sometimes this is very survivable, but it can feel a little bit tedious in C. Then there's the metaprogramming solution where you put it together, you get the whole block of code next to the parameters by setting them up like commands, global scope things, and this part is not so good and doesn't reflect anything in the code base now, like just old samples of things, and the example has changed. All right, so yeah, some of this is out of date. I'm going to write this. I'm not going to record myself writing it. I'm not sure when I will write it, but probably in the next day or two. So what I'll do is I'll get this ready to ship over the next day or two or whatever by rewriting this README with a new intro to C scripting and also an intro to the code base, the repository, right? So explain what LD meta is, explain what the build scripts show you.
version of the build for Windows working quick. Let's see here. We don't need you. Don't need you guys. What is that? Right, so it's not working. Again, what the rule was, you just doing this earlier in this sequence done today. Earlier today. Oh, it's over it. File option. Or the link options. X linker, no incremental, that's the trick. There we go. Build with claims this one. Build with cl.dat. Let's take a look at this. I'm gonna just simplify back down to that for cool. Okay. I think that's a good spot to stop it, and then I will try to rewrite that README, get this